The Big Change today, we meet Michael Compagnon, the managing partner of Mazars, one of the world's leading consultancy firms. Our discussion explores many interesting topics, including the changing face of Slovakia, shared services, and the role of universities in shaping the future.
We are sharing really strong values, and it's important for us to be working with good people and people that like each other because we are sharing these values. So it's really providing motivation of everybody every day to continue this great, let's say, adventure. So I think it's starting or accelerating this revolution, which consisting to have much more digitalization, and of course robotization on shared service centers.
Today I'm talking to Michael Compagnon from Mazars, based in Bratislava, Slovakia. So good afternoon, Michael.
Good afternoon.
Thanks very much for joining the conversation today. Now, I noticed looking at your resume that you've been with Mazars for 22 years now.
Yes, right.
In this day and age, that's quite unusual for somebody to have such a lengthy period at one company. What's your motivation for staying there so long?
Well, there is several motivations, but one which is obvious is that Mazars is a group which is offering a lot of possibilities. It's an international partnership where, in fact, each people can express themselves. And I think this is why that after 22 years, I have still the pleasure to work with my colleagues, with clients, and there is still something to do in Mazars, and there is a good open mind of people. So it's really providing motivation of everybody every day to continue this great let's say, adventure or journey for setting Mazars. When I started 22 years ago, just to simplify in terms of figures, but let's say that we've been 2,000 people covering maybe 10 countries. So today we are present in more than 90 countries. We have roughly 24,000 people working in Mazars, and if we are going to consider as well the North America alliance that we concluded recently, we have even 16,000 more, let's say, best friends with whom we are in cooperation with in North America. So it leads de facto Mazars to another dimension, another way to act on this kind of business and to help clients as much as we can growing in their respective industry. And of course, it's offering some perspective for people who are working for Mazars to be relocated for certain time in another country. So I observed as well that some of my colleagues moved from France to Asia, after they moved from Asia to New York, and after to New York to Sydney. So this firm is offering a lot of perspective, which makes this firm unique compared to our competitors. And I insist on the fact that Mazars is a partnership, a group where in fact we are not sharing only the profit at the end of the year, but we are sharing really strong values, and it's important for us to be working with good people and people that like each other because we are sharing these values.
You've been in Bratislava, Slovakia for best part of 20 years. You must have seen many changes. How was it in the year 2000 and compared to today?
When I started in the year 2000, it's true that if I'm going to consider first at all Bratislava, the capital city, it's true that of course, there were no shopping mall. Okay, so in the year 2000, you can be surprised, but there were no shopping mall at all. There were only in the city center one big Tesco, and there was nothing else. Today, how many shopping centers we have in Bratislava? 10, maybe.
I see myself. I come through there myself on the train very often if I'm coming to Bratislava or to Budapest, and the skyline is constantly changing. From the business point of view as well, I mean, you said 20 years ago there couldn't have been any major corporates there either, and now there are certainly more than 50 shared service centres, I believe, and many other businesses as well. Of course.
I remember when we started to audit subsidiaries of Danone Group in Slovakia, in Bratislava. It was the first company who moved to the first business center in Bratislava. So it was in the year 2001. Okay, so it's not so far ago, but it's true that the face of Bratislava has changed a lot, especially starting from the year 2004-2005, with an attractivity as regards automotive industry, but as well as you said, shared service centers. We can find today in Slovakia and I would say there is a concentration in Bratislava, but you can find in Bratislava a lot of very known corporations sitting in nice buildings and offering nice, let's say, jobs for new graduates in Bratislava. And we can see as well that there is a lot of foreign people now who are interested to join those foreign desks in those shared service centers. So when you are walking in the street, which was not the case 20 years ago, you can see some young Italian people, young Greek people, young UK people. So there is as well this appetite for European people to come in Bratislava to discover what is this small country, and as well to have a job and enjoy, in fact, the pleasure of having good time in Slovakia itself, because it's really nice country. Yeah, and as you said, 2004, 2005, that was the time I came over to this part of the world as well. So it was that kind of growth spurt was similar in the Czech Republic as in Slovakia, I guess. I noticed you spend a lot of time specializing in digitization and robotics. Over that period of time, you must. What would you say have been the biggest changes in the last, let's say, 15 years with regards to systems and technology and around the finance area? It's obvious that, in fact, a lot of shared service centers have decided to, let's say, to build some big organization in Slovakia because of the cost itself, so labor cost, but as well the cost of premises. So it means that when this kind of shared service center started in Slovakia, the level of automation, robotization this level was very limited because, let's say, the technology was still expensive compared to the cost of people. So now it's for the last 5 years, things has been changed because, of course, costs are growing a lot, and so to ensure that those shared service centers will remain profitable. I mean, profitable meaning that they are going to be still providing good services to the entities for which they are providing some services and so on. They need to find some other way, and only the technology can help them to be more and more better. So now there is a trend in the Slovak market to try to find some new platform of developing some robots, even as well to develop or to make some co-development with a startups company about some artificial intelligence tools. We are speaking about chatbots, of course. So now it's really moving faster than I expected, even because of this crazy time period when, in fact, people finally understood that to depend on a human being, it's sometimes dangerous. So why not to find some new technology for let's say, avoiding to do repetitive work which has no added value. And it's good, I think, to have this way of thinking now, because it will offer as well new type of work for the people who are working in shared service center, because instead to type all along the day the same information in a computer, which is of course not really interesting, I think those people will be trained for being able to code by themselves some robots, or even to control the execution of tasks done by robots. So it's going to be much more advanced knowledge that people can get in coming months. So I think it's starting or accelerating this revolution, which consisting to have much more digitalization, and of course robotization on shared service centers. Mm-hmm. So it's my point of view and my perspective for this coming maybe 2 years.
I think you're absolutely right. And other research I've done, or people I've spoken to, they said that in the next 10 years, it's possible there will be 50 million vacancies for data scientists, which can be analysts, or as you said, writing programs for chatbots or RPA or predictive analytics, which I guess is the next stage. Really, is the RPA is kind of doing repetitive tasks, and then the next stage is sort of intelligent automation, is being more predictive. So for all the clerical jobs, should we say, that will go, there will be at least one, or maybe even more than one, jobs to actually support the data, the technology that's to come. So I think I find that kind of thing actually very exciting. Personally, if I was a young person starting work, or newly into work, getting a few years of actual business practice, and then taking that business practice into the technology side, that's a very exciting progression, I think.
Yes, I agree with you, and it means as well that the education system in Slovakia has to adapt to the circumstances. And I think that when you are doing academic university, it should be compulsory as well to have some, let's say, semesters, how to understand, to use technology, how to do basic coding, and to understand that what people are going to look will be how to faster execution of some task, and for that only possibility would be to use the technology. So I think that it's good as well to make aware the education system in Slovakia that they have to change and to find some solutions for onboarding people already now about the new technologies.
It's a good point that you raised there. Do you think it should be, or is it already a joint initiative between university and business, or do you think there's still opportunity for universities to do more, maybe to bridge the gap between what they actually learn academically, or what they actually teach academically, I should say, and what actually happens in business practice? Do you think there's a gap, or
there's a big gap?
Yeah,
there's a big gap, and what I'm afraid about is the education system will not, let's say, interesting to cooperate with the business. I'm afraid that Slovak talented people will continue to move outside of Slovakia and to join some countries where, in fact, education system understood that it's necessary to be aligned with the business. And as we know, a lot of people already left Slovakia for the last 10 years. They moved to, let's say, Austria, they moved to Germany, to France, to the UK. And we know that those skilled people are even not interesting to come back in Slovakia. So if we are not going to find some solutions, I'm afraid that we are going to have only old people in Slovakia, and all the young blood will move to other countries. It's the same for startup. In fact, you can observe it in Slovakia when, in fact, the market is not offering some, let's say, assistance, good directions to help a startup, not only financial point of view, but let's say skill point of view. Those startups are used to move to somewhere else. We have a lot of small, very small startups who relocate recently in the US because there it was much more easier for them to find some skilled people and as well to be respected as an entrepreneur. And it's true that it's difficult maybe to find this kind of way of thinking in Slovakia. So we have to help young people to try to stay in Slovakia, to get a good knowledge through the education system. Otherwise, we are going to face some difficulties in coming years.
And in a small population, 5 million people, that's quite significant, isn't it?
Yes.
Right. Okay. Well, there's a lot of food for thought there, and I'm mindful of the time as well. So I actually rather think this is going to be the first of a series of interviews that we're going to do over the next coming weeks and months. It's been fascinating to talk to you today, and thank you very much for your time and for sharing your experience. I've really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to sharing it with a bigger audience. So Mikhail, thank you very much indeed. Take care, and I'll speak to you soon.